Hey guys, this is Robin, and I thought tonight I would show you a little bit of how Pioneer is developed, how the magic happens, as it were. So, the backstory here is, let's get this thing started up while we're talking. The backstory is that we often have these, hilarious, long conversations in the IRC channel about, you know, great ideas, particularly a lot of game mechanics. And we come up with these huge elaborate things. We usually document them, and we always say, one day we're going to actually implement some of this stuff. Once we've got, I'm usually the one who says this. Once we've got, blah thing implemented, or once we've got, particular core piece of infrastructure, and a lot of stuff never goes anywhere. And it will, of course it will. We're in here for the long haul, the very, very long haul. But last week we were talking a bit about fuel and the mechanics of fuel, and as in open flight kind of fuel, not hyperspace fuel. So those pretty thrusters, whatever it is that makes them go, makes your ship go. I was talking about how it might work and how refueling might work and a whole bunch of stuff. And it was going to be one of those discussions where just the results kind of get consigned to a wiki page somewhere and we move on. But then one of our more enterprising developers, I'll say, who you may have seen on the forums and on the issue tracker as Luomu. I don't know if I've pronounced that right, but I'm going to go with it. He'll correct me, no doubt. He went away and sort of overnight implemented a prototype of a fuel system. It's actually quite a bit better than a prototype. It had most of the working pieces there, but yeah, so everyone sort of woke up the next morning and there's all this new code there. So we started trying it out, and Brian Eder, who as being kind of the space guy, well, he kind of has been giggling like a schoolgirl for the last 2 days trying this thing out, and is actually manually testing and balancing every ship for its kind of purpose. How far can it fly and how fast does it burn fuel and all the rest of it. So basically, this feature is really starting to get some legs on it, and it's probably it'll definitely be in the next release. So we've there's been a lot of polishing and getting it up to scratch going on. So I'll just show you this feature quickly. So you'll see now we've got a giant fuel gauge. It'll probably move down a little bit, but let's just take off and let's do this. So I'm going to use a little bit of Lua script to change my current fuel to say, actually let's make it 6%. Ooh, so the gauge just went right down. That's very nice. Now let's get our thrust going. Swing around. Look at our. We've switched to the interplanetary shuttle just for the purposes of testing this. So don't panic. Though I'm actually starting to like the idea of it as being like the start ship. But we'll see how we go. So anyway, we're flying. So we'll get the time acceleration going, and you'll notice our fuel starts to drop. Now we've just hit 5%, so we get a nice little warning about it. We keep going, and the fuel tank is empty. And you'll notice that at the point that the fuel tank is empty, we still have maneuvering thrusters, but if you can hear that tapping, that's me sitting here mashing I, trying to make the main thrusters going, and they're not having a bar of it. This little ship is out of fuel and is really dead to the ages. It's going to drift away forever, and it's very sad. Very sad. Anyway, so one of the features we want to have in this is refueling. Now, the way fuel is implemented is that it's essentially part of your hull. You don't have a separate fuel tank as such. When the ship is empty, then you weigh less, or you have less mass, technically. When it's full, you have more mass, so of course that makes maneuvering and whatever more difficult. We don't know exactly what technology the thrusters are based on, but they are fueled by something that can be easily replenished with straight, pure, God-given water. So you will get 1 ton of fuel mass for 1 ton of water at any time just by hitting the refuel button. This is very nice at a little ship where the case of this shuttle, it's a 12-ton hull with a 4 ton, 8 ton, I think 4 ton fuel tank off the top of my head. So you're only going to be carrying 4 tons of fuel to fill it up. But in the case of some of the really, really large ships, your 2,000, 3,000 ton mega freighters, a third of their fuel tank is a third of their entire mass is fuel tank. So it's going to take a lot of water on board to actually fill this thing up. So it's always going to be a trade-off. How much extra water do I take with me for my trip to refuel the ship? So what we're going to implement tonight is the refuel button. And what we're going to do is we've got this nice little cargo screen, and we are going to put a button up here that says refuel. It's only going to appear if you've actually got water, so it's not going to be there if you can't refuel. What's the point of that? And when you click it, it will drop 1 ton of your water into the tank. Pretty simple. So let's get on with that. So we go into the code and we find here's the code. The Pioneer GUI system currently is based around the concept of a view. So we have a world view, which is your main camera. We have a sector view, which is your sector map and your galactic map. We have the system info view, which is where you pull up little pictures of all the planets and whatever, and you look at, that has this orbital blah and whatever else. But tonight we are looking at the info view. The info view handles all of that F3 sort of screens. What cargo you've got, missions outstanding, all the rest of it, and that's all done from within this file, infoview.cpp. So what we're actually looking for tonight is the cargo page. Now what I should do is leave the game running with that screen so I can flick back and forth and show you the different pieces of it. So we'll start this up again, and we'll go to ship information, pilot, stuff, cargo. So let's go back to here. So basically we're adding a label at the top, which Lang is part of our translation system, so it goes away and finds whatever the currently translated string for cargo inventory is. So I don't speak any languages other than English, but we have quite a few in there. Maybe that's you. It goes away and does a lookup for that, and produces this text, which it puts there. Jettison, similarly, is what goes there, and then we loop over every particular type of equipment. In the game engine, equipment and cargo are basically the same thing. A ship has multiple equipment slots, so you might have a shield slot which can hold a number of shield generators. You'll have a scanner slot. You'll have a hyperdrive slot. You'll have a whole bunch of things. Most of them can only hold one thing, but you also have a cargo slot, and that can hold any of a vast range of items that you buy on the commodity market. So what we're basically doing is loop over all the equipment, skip the ones that don't go in the cargo slots. So at some point in this loop we will find the shields or the lasers or whatever, but we're skipping them because they go in the cargo slot. We find out how many we've got. If we've don't have any, then we go back up. If we do have some, then we create a button. We hook up an on-click handler for the button, so when it's clicked, called jettison cargo, and add it to the page. Then we create a label with the name of the equipment, and we work out the tonnage as well, and we add that, and we end up with this. So we just loop over all of your stuff and click, 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 add all this stuff in. Very nice. So what we want to do is add ourselves a button. So we're going to start off by creating a thing called a box. A box is kind of a little packed together set of GUI elements, GUI widgets, which aren't used. Unfortunately, this is very, very old code. Unfortunately, boxes aren't used as much as I believe they should be. But we can make this little bit of code do it the right way. So we create a box and we set some spacing on the box. Basically, you put lots of elements in the box, and it just this is a H box, a horizontal box, so it just lays them out side by side with some little bit of space in between them. By default it's 0. We want 5, so because 5 is just kind of the amount we use throughout the thing. It works well enough for our purposes right now. So now we need to create a button. So we are going to create a button called B, and it's a new solid button. We have a few different types of buttons. You will have seen them around the game. We have label buttons, which have words in them. I think we have a unfilled button. It's just kind of a square. I'm not sure if it's used anywhere, but there's a few different things. All of this stuff, obviously, you can find by looking through the code. So we're going to set up a click handler, something to do when it's clicked. SIGC is our signaling system. It's a way for us to say when this thing happens, do this thing. So we're setting up a SIGC handler for the click event for this button. And we are going to call cargo page refuel. That's a method that doesn't exist yet. So we'll just comment that out for the moment because we're going to try and compile this. That's not going to compile until we've written that. And so then we go box, add the button to the box, pack end packs it to the end of the box. There's also a pack start which pushes it onto the front, but it's easy just to do them in order. And then we want to create we also want to put on a label, new GUI label, and it's going to say refuel. For the moment we'll just put in a raw string. Later we'll hook it up to the translation system. But this will do for our purposes right now. And then we need to add the box to this widget, which happens to be the cargo page. And where we're going to add it, well, let's make it nice and easy for ourselves. We'll add it vertically we'll add it in line with cargo inventory, and horizontally we'll start it above the 4 tons, or the tonnage amount for the cargo. So that makes it really easy just to go and steal numbers from elsewhere in the code. So across the tonnage goes at 300, and we want 40 height. And then we want to do one little thing, which is to do show all, which tells it to make this box and all of its children visible. So we should be able to compile this. We'll stop the game first, recompile. What have we done? Hbox. Oh yes, I've just miscapitalized this. There we go. No, what have I done? Cannot convert Hbox to pointer to Hbox. What have I done here? Ah, yes. You'll have to forgive me, I'm a little tired tonight, so I'm making slightly silly mistakes. Alright, so we're compiled, so we can run the game and see what happened. Different people like to program in different ways. I'm the kind who likes to do a tiny little bit of work, check that it works, and keep going. So we have this button. Naturally, it does nothing yet. Now, the thing we want is that button should not exist if we don't have any water in this list. So that's the next thing we need to do, is not show it if we don't have water. So we'll kill that. Now, we need to do a test to see if we have some water. The way to do this test is to interrogate the player and his equipment. As I said, cargo goes in equipment, and find out the counts, how many of an item in the cargo slot called equip water. And if it's greater than 0, then yes, you people who know how to drive your editor probably are going to giggle ever so slightly or cringe ever so slightly when you see that. Equip water comes from our equip type system. So there's all the slots, the different kinds of things that can hold items, and then here are all the various items. So we have the commodities at the top, and then various equipment and other things underneath, all handled the same way, no magic. So then we should find, when we recompile, that what we should find is initially we should have that refuel button should not be there, but when we go and buy some water, we will see some. So let's just test that. So it's not there right now. We'll go to the commodity market, we will find water, something I've never bought before. Let's buy a bit of water, come back in here, and we have a refuel button. And then just to confirm that it's really working, if we now get rid of our water, and it's gone again. Excellent. We're doing good. We're doing good, everyone. So now we need to hook that button up. actually have it do something. So we need to write this method. So it can be a private method for this class. Void refuel. Now we don't need to do anything special because we know that because this method is private, we know that it can only be triggered by clicking that button, which means, since that button's on screen, which means we know that we have water, that we know the button's been clicked and we know that we have water, so we don't have to do those tests again. The reason for this pause is I'm just thinking about what it should do if you already have a full tank. Obviously it should do nothing, but maybe we shouldn't even show the button on screen. No, I won't do that because sometimes it can look like you've got a full tank, and you know that little bar, it's very hard to tell if it's sort of full at 100%. So we'll do that check here. So we will alright, so we're going to say if ship, the player's ship, this is for the player. Player ship is always PI player. There's no separate concept of a player as opposed to the player's ship. They're the same thing in this game. So get their fuel, and we need to compare this with 1.0. To do that, we say float float is 0 exact. I'm not going to go into too much, but floating point numbers, basically you can have some very, very small fractional component that makes them look the same when they aren't the same. So we need to use a special so it's really unsafe to just go, if fuel equals 1.0, we have to use a special function to take care of that. So we do. So if it's equal to 1.0, actually, I want to say if it's not equal to 1.0, then return. Do nothing. But if we've got less than that much fuel, then we need to get rid of a ton of fuel, which I forget how to do. I think we will go to the equipment system, which I believe to be in ship. I think it's in ship. Might be in ship.h. If I don't find it this time, that's when I go and search for it. No. Let's close that for a sec. What I want to do is just remember how to actually take an item away from the equipment. Just looking through equipment. Oh dear, what have I done? Where has it gone? It's in ship type. The equipment system is really kind of messy and gnarly and funky at the moment. We have this thing called equip set, which holds all the equipment. So what we want to do is say, just make sure this, I think you can just do -1. What I could go and do is look at the commodity market, which does do these things. Find add, not the right kind of add. Find M equipment. So this is the code for, silly me, the player's going to have it. Sorry, I am totally confusing things right now. I'm just looking for something. So when we say cancel, and there will also be a, oh goodness, where are we? Oh, there we go. That's exactly what we want. That's exactly the code we want. So that's what happens when you sell an item right now. But we are going to actually do it our own way. So we'll just borrow that. So we're basically saying remove one item and then recalculate the ship's mass. Except instead of T, because that's for buying and selling random stuff, we are actually going to just say equip water. So that will remove the item of water, but now we have to add some amount of fuel to the ship. So we go set fuel is going to be equal to get fuel, which we already called up there. So let's just record it, because this sort of thing is, well, I don't even know if it's faster. You think it's going to be faster because you think, oh, then it won't have to call that thing too many times. But, compilers are pretty clever these days. They can sort that out. It is less to type, though. You know, for people who are used to reading code, the brain is going to read that and go, oh, I have a thing called current fuel that has the amount of fuel in it. And then they're going to stow away the meaning of that. So the next time they see it, they just know, oh, of course, it's the current fuel. I don't need to worry about where it came from. I can just, remember it. So okay, so now we need to add a ton of fuel. To add a ton of fuel, we need to set fuel takes a percentage. So we need to convert 1 ton of fuel into the appropriate percentage amount. You have to forgive me. I am a little bit dry this evening because it's a little bit warm here in sunny Melbourne. So what we will do is go to the place where the ship stats are held, because that will tell us the name of fuel tank mass. And to get a ship type, so we now have all the pieces we need. So we get the player's ship type, and then from the ship type we get, hang on, I've lost it. From the ship type we get the fuel tank mass. And you're going to find this particularly amusing. I'm very, very bad at math, so I'm going to sit and about this for a little while, even though you've already figured out what it is we need to type here. So we want to find out essentially what 1 ton of this is as a percentage. So this is, that's current fuel plus 1%. Oh, hang on. Set fuel takes a percentage. Okay, we'll just reverse the thing that's already there. Oh, that's a bit sad. Fuel tank mass. So if the fuel tank is, say, 300 tons, 1 ton of that is, like 0.3%. Yeah? Is it really that simple? We just divide by 1 over? This is where we will ask the fine people. Okay, so yes, 1 over the fuel tank mass is all we need. Very nice. Because yes, set fuel goes from 0 to 1. Yeah, just because I talk a lot and do all the, and try to sort of merge a lot of the code and that sort of thing, and I mostly just talk a lot most of the time. Don't know a lot about what I'm doing. So I don't know if you can hear people talking in the background. That is my wife and half a dozen of her friends uh, drinking and having a lovely time, as we want to do on a Saturday night. So let's actually test this now. We should find that we are now able to refuel our ship. Uh, Float is 0 exact. We don't want is 0, we want is equal. Make sure you count how many of these silly things you spotted. And it's not called that, so we go to the proper place to find that. It's called float equal exact. You could argue that that's inconsistency, but I'm not going to argue that. Yes, now M equipment, we are not actually in the player class. I'll go away. So we need to do some things from outside it. Okay, good. We're compiling. We should be good there. I just need to do one thing here. That's rare, but I really don't want to be interrupted right now. So, we come here. Now let's buy ourselves a bunch of water. And note that we have that. Now if we press refuel now, nothing happens because we have a full tank. Let's get the console up and go game, player, set fuel percent. Let's just set it to 90%. We go back to the main screen and confirm that it has dropped a little bit. So let's go here. Oh, that's very bad. Where is all our water gone? Where has our water gone? I don't even understand how that's possible. I did buy water, didn't I? Yes, I bought water because my money sucked. Okay. That was very odd, but let's press refuel and see what happens. It's not going down. Well, this is very strange. I'm starting to wonder if this was a great idea to put all this on video. Not because I'm worried about looking bad, but just because I was hoping for a nice, easy, bit of low-hanging fruit. Let's start up the debugger, and let's go and put a break on, what was it? It was InfoView cargo. No, it wasn't. Can it just be cargo? Cargo page? Cargo page refuel. So now the brake will trip when we press refuel. And there we go. So we do that, we see what our current fuel is. There's our problem, my friends. If it's not equal to 1, return. Of course that's the wrong way around. I think that 0 thing confused me. So let's change this. There we go. And let's rebuild. Try that again. Okay, let's go through exactly that again because I'm really curious to see what that was about exactly. Buy some water. Confirm we have water. Give us less fuel. It's set fuel percent. Let's flick through this. We still have our fuel. We go back to there. We notice the fuel's gone down. We come back here. I don't know. I don't know what that was about. That was weird. But let's try refueling. Okay, we still have a break set on this. Let's just delete that break. Now, I think, no. Okay, now what's happened? Is our fuel going up? Nothing's happening. Oh, now it's gone down. Okay. Alright, so we have a couple of problems here. One is that this page doesn't refresh. We are going to need to force a refresh on this page. It didn't refresh until we went out and came back in. So that's the first problem, but our water did go down. That's a good thing. Let's just do print game.player get whole percent. No, not get whole percent. Get fuel percent. I see that we do still have 90, so we didn't get any more fuel. So we set that breakpoint, so let's press refuel. Alright, so let's see what goes on. So current fuel is 0.9. See what I mean about things not being quite exact, but near enough to 0.9. So we keep going. We remove some water. We update the mass. And now we do, let's look at what this is like. Get ship type, fuel tank mass. It's 4. So our fuel tank weighs 4 tons. So 1 on 4. So we should actually see this go up to oh, hang on. We've missed a multiplier somewhere. Because let's think about this. We've basically said add 0.2. No, we haven't. No, we haven't. We've said set fuel. So 1 over that is... There's our problem. Right. That's our problem. Really utterly annoying quirk that hits me every time. When you perform math, it will perform it against using the type of the first thing in it, because it's essentially like a method call. So I'm saying divide integer 1 by 4. What's 1 divided by 4? If what's a quarter if you have no no fractional part? It rounds down to 0. So we were just adding 0. By saying please divide this float of 1 by 4, we'll get the right answer. It actually hit me at work on Friday. It took a little while to figure that out, and I think there was a little bit of ranting between me and my colleague as a result of that. Because it's just one of those things that you look at and you can understand why it is the way it is, but it's like I said, I wanted to divide 1 divided by some thing. I'm adding it to a floaty thing. Clearly I want something, but computers. So let's do that, and we will go back to here, set fuel percent is 90. Let's set it to 50 actually, and print it. Game player get fuel percent, and note that it's 50. Press refuel. That's still going to do its thing. Now what we should see is, hello, that's a bit more than 50. We've just lost a ton. We go back in here, we're now 75. We do this again. Alright, now let's delete that breakpoint, because I think that we've pretty much figured out that this is working, haven't we? Now we have a full tank. If we go back in here, okay. We'll press it again, still have a fuel tank. It didn't go down, so that's good. So we cannot refuel. So we have 1 bug left to fix. We have to fix this not refreshing. Home stretch. Very nice. So what we just want to do is we want to make it recompute. So we want to call update info. And if we looked closer at Jettison Cargo, we would have seen that that's what we needed to do. because it does basically the same thing, doesn't it? You press jettison and the count goes down. And we're going to do a real kind of live test with this in a minute. So we'll buy some fuel, or water as it's more commonly known. So we can't refuel. Let's push our down, press refuel, and it updated live. Let's add one little thing. That one little thing will be a message to tell you that something's happened. So this is how we put little messages down in the scanner area. Actually, no, this is not where we will put it. We will add two messages. We will add one for if the ship is already full, and we'll have a message when you fill it to full. So we'll do it like this. If we're returning, no, actually I don't think we need messages. Messages are funny. They are complicated and we don't really like them too much because they kind of just get up in your face all over the place. Let's just call this finished. No, we have one little thing left to do. We have to make this string translatable. So we will make this lang refuel, and then we need to go and create this. So we'll get out of that, we'll go to lang.h, and we'll put it next to jettison. So we basically say this string exists, and that will make the language system go and look for that when it loads it up. In fact, if we run this right now, it has to recompile after the game because it has to push that language change. It has to make sure that it doesn't exist anywhere else in the code. Now we should find that when we run this game now, it complains at us that it couldn't find the refuel token. So we will go into data, lang, English. We'll go down to jettison again and we'll say refuel. I can't remember if I'm supposed to have tabs through this whole file or not. Looks like it doesn't matter. And did I do it though? It looks like it's fine. Tabs and spaces, yeah. It's great. It's great fun. It's a rush. So we start this up. And that's right, we need to buy some water first, don't we? Let me just confirm that it has the right text. Very good. So now we do a commit. We run git diff. Git is our source control package that we use to manage Pioneer. Cool. So we say allow fuel tank to be refueled from water in the cargo bay. We do that and we push. Now we're pushing it up to the repository. And then if we come over to the web browser and we find, where are we? I'm lost. This is GitHub, our central sort of source management thing. This is our issue tracker, but what I want to find is my fork, which is my own personal copy of the Pioneer code. And we notice that on that branch, I just did a push. And has it switched to that tree? Yes, it has. And we go, oh, they keep moving things and I keep losing it. Commits. There, we can see that our patch has now been uploaded. So there's our language change, there's our actual code change, and the other bit of language change. So in the end, a fairly nice, simple simple little patch, and it'll make a lot of people very happy. So I will leave you there. Thank you for bearing with me if you've come this far. Give me some feedback. Uh, was this a complete waste of your time, or is this something you'd like me to do again in the future? I promise to not make quite so many mistakes, and I promise to bring more water next time so you don't have all the coughing. Uh, have a good evening, my friends.